So I have this here. I'm going to tell you what my ideas are. First, it's going to be repainted, but that's going to be last, I think. Or maybe I'll do it first. I'm not sure. I think it'll be easier for me to paint it first. And what I have planned is taking these little decoupage papers. Now, I love birds. I got these a couple years ago online somewhere. But I love birds and I love flowers. So I originally was just going to do flowers, and I really don't want these numbers on here. So what I may do is take some copper leaf and copper leaf these. Then I was thinking to just decoupage a couple birds that I choose onto these little numbers. So you don't see the numbers anymore. You'll just see some birds. So that way I can incorporate the birds. And then on the backs of these cubbies, I'm going to decoupage, cut these out, probably tear them kind of circular, and then paint the back so that it looks like it's all part of it. And do that on each different one, each different flower, and then paint it to coordinate, and it'll be a whole new piece. This can either go on a cabinet or it can be hung on the wall. So that's just my thought process. We'll see how it goes. So I've already stumbled my first step because the original cutouts that I was gonna do, yeah, they fit this way, but they look so stupid when it was upright. So then I was like, oh my gosh, what if I turn them over? I have bigger sizes. So now I can put them the right way, kind of mix them up, and I can still paint over these so you won't know that they're sideways, and figure out from there. But I'm thinking I like how this looks, and I can always change the hanging hardware to hang from this part of the back instead, or it could just be used like this. I'm gonna think about this. All right, let's see. I don't know what color I want to do, but I think I'm gonna go with this one for this project. What is this called? Yeah, Back to Nature. I also think I'm going to add some texture to this paint because I want it to be like a very rough kind of garden finish. That is, if it was like sitting outside and it got a little destroyed. So I'll add a little baking soda to my paint and mix it up in one of my containers. Hello there. I really didn't want to come on camera looking like this, but it is what it is. All right, so I'm gonna take my green, oh no, ew, it's all chunky. Uh-oh. All right, well, let's see. Let's see if I can salvage any of it. Ooh, yuck. All right, well, this was chunky and disgusting, but I don't really care because most of my paint projects include chunk in them, like chunky as in like not a smooth finish. All right, so I'm just gonna pour some of this in. There, oh, not even on screen, how do you like that? I probably would start off with less than what I think I need so that I don't waste. And this paint looks a little chunky, yes, but I'm not really too worried about it considering I want it to have like kind of a textured finish anyway. I'm adding baking soda. This is not an exact science, everybody. I just kind of eyeball it and see what kind of texture I'm getting, and then just take a paint stir, whatever. It doesn't have to be a paint stir either. I just want to make it a little bit chunkier. Not crazy, but I want it to have like a little bit more texture. So it's pretty thick. That should be fine. And when you paint something with a little bit of texture that you want a little bit of texture on, you just kind of like stipple it on anyway. You're not going to really do like a fine paint job with like a brush. So I usually take like something like a chip brush that I don't care about throwing out. It's a one-time use only, and then go from there. I'm gonna see if I have something a little bit bigger, which I do, right here. And I have my project right here. So I'm going to paint the insides of the cubbies first, then I'm going to remove all these numbers. I already practiced decoupaging one of these. I don't know if I really like how it came out. I might still change my mind on that one, but so I'll paint interior first, take out all these pieces, and then we will paint the exterior. And then let it dry really good. And then it'll be time to decoupage the interior. Decoupage the cubbies. You don't need like a really thick layer. It's not going to be the best paint job ever. You don't have to worry about smooth corners and stuff like that. You just want to get the paint on there. Look, I didn't even clean. Ooh, bad. So I'm just going to get to doing this, and then I'll be back. So already I've changed my approach. I am just painting over these buttons, and then I'm going to do my copper foil like I said, and then I think what I'll do is try to find like a cute little stencil, or just even a part of a stencil, and just stencil like a little floral on each one of these when it's all said and done. And I am going to be doing it sideways rather than long ways, because nothing that I had, the little cutouts that I had to decoupage, they don't fit correctly. So I'm going to keep them the way that they're supposed to be, and I'm going to just turn this on its side, which I think looks just as cute. So just in the middle of doing this, it's going to be a little challenging getting in here. Going to have to figure out how I'm going to do that, because there's a little lip here, so it's kind of hard to fit in. But I'll get there. And if you can tell, this already has a lot of texture to it, so it's really not that I really need to add so much more texture, but I still will, and I really like the way it's looking. So here I am, just finishing up the outer part of it. I mean, you see that I'm not really doing it like so beautifully. It's a lot of pouncing, going back and forth, just getting coverage. In fact, I want to leave a little bit, so because I like a little bit of a rougher finish, but you can see I've pretty much got it done. Okay, so I have my coat of paint on. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I know I'm going to go back and do a little distressing along the edges here, and probably add some antique wax to give it a little bit more depth. But now I'm going to work on actually getting the decoupage paper ready. So I've already done one where I wet like the edges with a little fine paintbrush like this. Take a little paintbrush like this, dip it in some water, and just trace around, and then you pull apart your paper so that it's not a straight edge. And then what I'm gonna do eventually is go back in, once this is decoupaged and dried, I'll go back in with a small brush and tap into some of the back to nature, and then just kind of make it so it looks like this has been in it from day one. Just kind of blending it in. So I'll show that process once I get there. I just wanted to explain where I'm going next. So I'm going to go through all these and just wet around, rip them apart, and then get them ready to decoupage. So if you'll notice, this kind of gives you like a little guideline. So I'm going to actually just wet it along the lines there. So we'll see. Take my paintbrush. You can see this. Sorry, I don't have zoom on here. And again, this does not have to be exact. You just want to kind of get an uneven border, because it's easier to make it look like it's been there forever, if it's not just like this perfect straight line. You'll see at the end what I mean. Okay, and this is just a cap to, I think, a peanut butter jar. I save everything, guys, because you know what? It's perfect for adding a little bit of water. Okay, so let that sit for a bit, and then I will start to tear it. This paper is actually thicker than what I would normally decoupage with. So usually it would be like thin, like a tissue paper or a napkin or something like that. This is actually like kind of thick. So it doesn't rip as easy, but if you can tell, I'm just taking this, sorry, just trying to get a better angle so you can see. Here, I'll do it this way. It's really not that hard. You're just gonna rip with both hands and kind of follow along the little wet path you just made. See? It's coming apart really easy now. You wanna let it sit like a minute or two. Well, not even a minute, maybe. Depending on how thick your paper is. I mean, if you do this on tissue paper, it'll come right off within seconds. So you get the gist, right? See, now look, this will be so much easier to decoupage and put into the board so it looks like it's been there forever. Again, I'm gonna show you all this as we go. So this one, a little bit more square, but use your imagination, just go along. You don't wanna take away too much from it, so I'm just gonna follow along where I want like to kind of highlight and go from there. Again, taking a little bit of water, I don't want to see any of the white edge, so this side's going to be a little straighter than I wish, but I don't really want any of the wording. You're not going to be able to really see it anyway. Where I've wet it. I might have to go in again. Again, this paper, very thick compared to what I'm used to working with. But I love this pattern so much that I wanted to work with it. And it really, if it rips a little bit, see if I ripped off a little bit more than I wanted to, no big deal. It's more organic this way anyway, not being so perfect and straight. Is nature really perfect and straight? No. So this project, being that I'm kind of going with a garden theme in mind, won't be perfect. So I'll rip that out and get back to you. Okay, so taking a little bit of Redesign decoupage gel right here, not sponsored. This is matte. I don't like to really include any shine. I take just a kind of a dampened sponge. I damp my sponge a little bit, wring it out, and then dip into the gel, and then just really coat it. Get the ends really good. Okay. It's pretty well coated, starting to curl. And then I'm gonna place it in this cubby here. Let me see which way we going here. Just gonna place it in. Okay, so spun you around. I'm gonna take my sponge again. I find it easier to do it with a sponge because you can like press and attach everything. And you don't touch anything and it doesn't stick to your fingers. So I find just like ripping up like a sponge like this, dipping it in a little bit of water, wringing it out, and then adding a little bit of the glue, like so. And then you can go across, just like this. I've already done this one. Don't know if you can tell. Looks like the ends might be not fully attached, so I'll just go back and do that. It's a process, and it's gonna bubble up. I mean, this is glue, so it like has like a sizing period where it kind of like bubbles up while it's drying, but it should kind of flatten out. I mean, you want to make sure you get like obvious bubbles out, but you don't have to worry about it being very smooth right off the bat because it's wet, so it's going to bubble. So I'm just going to work all the way down and do this on every cube, and I'll be back. Progress. So here I've not painted around it yet. This is just drying with the decoupage, and this is kind of already painted, just so you see the difference or what I'm kind of trying to go for. So this is probably the best example I can give to you as far as like making it look like it is already a part of this. So you just take, my brush fell apart. I mean, check this out. This is so frustrating. But this, I'm just dabbing along the edge here to create what looks like it's already been there and it was painted and everything is one. That's the best example I can give at this point. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of antique wax, and that's how I get that brown look. So we make it look like it's aged. I'm all about aging and grunging and making things look very worn, so that's this so far. Okay, so now what I'm doing is adding a little bit of antique wax. And all I do for that is put a little bit of antique wax here, grab it on my brush, just took too much of that, and all I'm doing basically, let me find a place, is I take it and I go like this. Sorry, I'm trying to get this in focus. There you go. And I do that all the way around. Sorry, not focused. All the way around. Kind of thinking about each one of these as like a little frame. That's what it's like turning into. I'm gonna go back and fix some of this. I'll just go put a little bit more green back on here because I don't like the way that looks. So it's just about tweaking things, getting it the way I want it, making it look a little grunged, a little worn in, aged. That I'll go in with the green again and fix that up. That's how it's coming along so far. So I'm still at it. Pretty much all of the decoupage is done. Now I've just put some rub and buff instead of gold foil or copper foil. I decided to go an easier route and just do the rub and buff. And then I have a stencil that just has some numbers. Since this thing had numbers on it before, but going in the opposite direction, I'm now adding stenciled numbers to this. And I messed up number 1. And then, yeah, as you can see, I still have like all this. I just made this darker around the edges, and I'm gonna blend it all with the green again. But that's where I'm at so far.